I now open the 24th of February 2022 Ordinary Council meeting at 5:34. I advise that the meeting is being streamed live to the internet. All those present should refrain from making any defamatory statements, and upon joining these online meetings, you accept the condition that your image may be recorded and streamed to the internet, as well as being retained in the archive of the recorded council meetings and standing committee meetings. The first item on the agenda is the prayer, and sorry, can we be upstanding for the prayer and acknowledgement, please? Councillor Etheridge, could I ask you to say the prayer, please?
O God, grant that by the knowledge of thy will, all we may resolve shall work together for good. We pray through Jesus Christ our Lord. Amen.
Amen. And Councillor Lewis Burns, could I ask you to do the acknowledgement, please?
I would like to acknowledge the Wiradjuri people who are traditional custodians of the land. I would also like to pay respect to the elders, both past and present, of the Wiradjuri nation, and extend respect to other Aboriginal peoples from other nations who are present. I'll do the acknowledgement in traditional tongue through the Makatan Najang Maranyanjiri Naramang Tabagawarari Wilaywarari Mangawarari. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Burns. Please be seated. The first item on the agenda is a leave of absence. I've got no councillors' leave of absence. Please note, as I mentioned before, Councillor Mann is attending the meeting via audio-visual link. So move on to the next item on the agenda, CCL 22/24, conflicts of interest. Councillor Black.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. I've got two conflicts of interest to declare this evening. The first one is item number CCL 22/28 and CSC 22/4. It's a non-pecuniary less than significant interest. It's to do with the purchase of Part Keswick from Council on the 4th of November 2021 by Dubbo Christian School. I'm employed by Dubbo Christian School. That was before I was elected on the 4th of December, so I'll be staying in the room when that matter comes up. And the second matter is CCL 22/45, the boarding house at 47 Macleay Street. That's a pecuniary significant interest for me, as I own a place at 17 Macleay Street, just the block up from the subject DA at 47 Macleay Street. So I will leave the room and be out of sight when that comes up. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Black. Councillor Wells.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. I declare that I have a non-pecuniary and less than significant conflict of interest, and due to the CCL 22/45, the nature of my interest is that 47 Macleay Street, one of the objectors, Dr Emma Webster, is a close friend, and I'd like to declare that I am able to remain impartial and remain in the room for this discussion.
Thank you, Councillor Wells. Councillor Wright.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. Look, I have this is in regards to CCL 22/52, the Regan Park Master Plan. I have a non-pecuniary less than significant interest. I'm a resident of Regan Park Estate, but my property does not adjoin nor overlook the property in question, so I will remain in the room while we discuss that item. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Wright. Now, the next item on the agenda, CCL 22/23, is public forum. Just before we start public forum, we've got a number of speakers registered, which is fantastic. I love the amount of interest in council meetings. There is a hard limit on the amount of time in our Code of Meeting Practice for public forum, which is 30 minutes, and then we can extend that by another 10 minutes maximum, but we can't go past that 40 minutes. As the speakers are aware, we do have a limit of 5 minutes per speaker, so I've just got to be very strict on that because we're trying to get all the speakers done in that 40-minute time frame. So we'll do our best to make sure we get to hear from everyone. We don't want to cut anyone off, but again, I can't go past that 40 minutes. So I'll ask the first speaker to come forward. As each speaker comes forward, please just state your name and what you're speaking in relation to. You can quote the item out of the agenda if you'd wish, or you can quote just the general nature of the item, and you'll have your 5 minutes there. So the first speaker is Mr Ian Ugart. Hopefully I pronounced that name correctly. Sorry, you're coming in, Ugart, that's correct. Coming in via video link. Okay, thank you, Mr Ugart. You're away. Sorry, Mr Ugart, you're on mute there. Might need to unmute yourself.
Look at that magic.
Right, yeah, I'll start your timer again. I'll be very generous there.
Perception that what's being produced here is not what the opposition is. I've been involved in many levels of advice at government levels and council in regards to policy, and at all stages and all cases, perceptions of the community is that this will be different to how it will actually end up operating. And all the studies shown for all the boarding houses and the New Gen boarding house in particular, those people that had an issue with the application at the beginning no longer have an issue at the back end of the operation, and it was 0 to very few complaints about any operation of new generation boarding house that has the affordability of a contained in them. I did want to also give some stats around Gulbo and Gulbo specifically themselves. 40% of the makeup of Gulbo they've had 40% increase in census data of singles moving into Gulbo. You have the lowest vacancy rates in the regional area next to Orange. You've got 24.9% change in census of increased couples coming to the area. You've got a 21.9% in singles. So your base couples have very little choice in rental accommodation other than 3, 4 or 5 different housing. Also note that at the same time, 3 and 4 people households dropped in the local area. So for me, I don't have a lot to say other than I've seen many applications just like this, have issues at community level, only to find that once it's operational, it's not a problem, and it actually helps those people most need. So those children that are those people in the community that need this accommodation most is where it's going to benefit most. So I asked the council that they look at this quite strongly and approve on the merits. It ticks all the boxes. Parking requirement, it has all the floor space ratio, it has the recommendations that we've been improved, complied with notified bicycle parking, it has management by a local agency with a good management plan in place, has benefited socially, and complies totally with the LEP. So please approve this on its merits rather than the emotion of the very few people in the community that have simply copied and pasted any complaints or refusal, wants or refusal to this. That's all I have to say. I do thank you very much for the ability for me to speak at this meeting, and I hope that the correct outcome happens.
Thank you, Mr Ugart, and I appreciate the time, only 4 minutes, well done. The next speaker is Mr Lachlan Cusack, and we've got Mr Cusack in the audience there. Again, as I said before, Mr Cusack, just please state your name, what you're talking in relation to, and I'll start the timer. Thank you.
Mr Mayor, councillors and executive staff, as you said, my name's Lachlan Cusack and I'm one of the directors of Platinum Property Group, and thank you for the opportunity to speak to you this evening regarding the proposed development at 47 Macleay Street. I'm aware there are some objectors to this proposal, and there's been significant media coverage to date on the matter, which in my belief has falsely highlighted to the community the potential issues such a development would encourage should it be approved, and I'd like to take this time to outline to you why. Firstly, at the on-site visit, there seemed to be great negativity raised and discussed around the former Towers Lodge, now known as 70 Darling Street, of which the former owners are here this evening to defend their name from being dragged through the mud. Those objecting to the proposal were quick to dash the cameras around to the property and were quick to make comments surrounding the management of the property without knowing the full facts. The following comments were made on the media that evening. What happens is people come out to the street, you know, because there's no other place, and I don't think it really matters who you are. We all deserve a safe place to live. Let me clarify. 70 Darling Street is personally managed by me under our business and is leased entirely to a corporation to house incoming workers for various industries through the Dubbo region, in no way similar to the development before you this evening. This property provides an essential housing service of which is unavailable anywhere else across Dubbo. I've managed this property for almost 2 years and have not had one complaint made to my office regarding the running of the property, and I'm led to believe Dubbo Regional Council is the same. The property is maintained quite well, and despite the people having great difficulty securing rental properties in a highly competitive market, as they are new to the country and have different cultural standards, the property ensures they too have a safe place to live that's going to bring out the best in them, whilst they integrate into our community. The proposed development before you, like I said, is no way, shape or form similar to the existing premises, and it'll be utilised by people from all walks of life, from students, fly-in, fly-out workers, to your average elderly person that simply can't afford the rents in Dubbo, managed by an established real estate agency. The proof's in the pudding to how successful these types of dwellings are at filling gaps in a housing service the community clearly is screaming for. The precedent is set and established by quite successful operation, of several other housing institutions like the Marine Lodge, the East End Apartments managed by Elders Real Estate, and the Limbar Flats, which are very close by Macleay Street, managed by Ray White Dubbo. Secondly, it's beyond me to comprehend why this discussion is on the table now. On the 11th of November 2011, the new Dubbo LEP was formed, which surpassed the previous 97 and 98 LEP, which categorised the majority of North Dubbo into R1 general residential land, which allows for such developments as the one before you this evening, and higher densities than that of other areas in Dubbo, for example, Allendale Drive. Zoning and changes aren't always going to suit everyone, but it's the responsibility of the council to make decisions based on the interests of the greater good of the community they represent. As the city goes, the infrastructure must grow with it. It's no secret Dubbo's experienced one of the largest periods of growth it's ever seen in real estate. The median house is $435,000 and the median rental is $390 a week, with the median unit at an all-time high of $280. There are many options to this council to provide housing issues, solutions to these housing issues, and higher density living is just one of them. It wasn't all that long ago that when I was a kid I used to ride my push bike in the paddock that was Keswick Estate, and it's now home to over 300 families and it's still not at its full potential. Cobra Street was drowned in heritage-style 1900 homes which were demolished to build motels for an ever-growing community, and Apex Oval was that far out of town it was a garbage tip, and now it forms very part of central Dubbo. What I'm getting at is that we've got an out-of-town developer here who's recognised that need to provide affordable housing in a city that's screaming for it, and he's purchased the block and he's prepared to sink significant capital into that block in the right zoning that currently only has the ability to sleep 2 people. We're not talking about giving homes to 6 or 7 or 8 people, we're talking about 18 people for a solution for housing that they need. I'm at a loss to see how this is a negative for the community. I have to agree with my learned friend's comments made on the news. What happens is people come out into the street, you know, because there's no other place. And I don't think it really matters who you are. We all deserve a safe place to live, and 47 Macleay Street is just the start of that answer. With the council's approval of this project, people won't be on the street, there will be another place, and there will be a safe place for them that's going to bring out the best on us. I look forward to your decision tonight and look to you as our new council to continue the progressive, inclusive and optimistic Dubbo I've called home for 25 years, and look forward to being able to welcome many other people to it, make it their home, and I hope that you'll use your position tonight to vote in favour of a development that will benefit the community on a whole. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr Cusack. The next speaker I have registered is Mr James Penaritos. Again, Mr Penaritos will be coming in via audio-visual link. If we can get Mr Penaritos there, thank you. Okay, Mr Penaritos, you've got your time starts now, and we welcome your thoughts. Mr Penaritos. Hello, Mr Penaritos. Okay, we might just move on to the other speaker, and we might just send Mr. Panaritos a text, if that's all right. Thanks, Susan. The next speaker is Emma Webster. Ms. Webster, if you'd like to come forward, same story, state your name and what it's in relation to, and you've got your 5 minutes. Thank you.
Good evening. Hi, good evening. Can everyone hear me?
Okay, sorry, Ms. Webster. I'll go back to the original order if that's okay. Thank you. Sorry, Mr. Panaritos, we've got you now. Okay.
Yeah, I'm here. Can you all hear me?
Yes, indeed.
Great.
Okay, over to you.
Mr. Mayor and Councillors, I'm James Panaritos. It's probably obvious to all of you that I'm speaking in objection to item 45 on your agenda pertaining to development application for a boarding house at 47 Macleay Street next door to my mother's residence at 43 Macleay Street. I'd like to start by expressing my gratitude to all of you for coming on site on the 10th of February. Today you will be considering a recommendation by council staff to approve the development application subject to conditional consent. Now, you've heard the last two speakers and you've also heard our arguments, and I don't want to waste anyone's time going over the minutiae of old ground. However, we vehemently maintain that in the absence of specific controls for boarding house developments within the Dubbo Development Control Plan of 2013, assessing this development as a residential flat building is erroneous, particularly in light of the imminent gazelle of state environmental planning policy for housing 2021. The resourcing implications articulated in the city's papers, which you've all read, state at page 80, and I read, should council refuse the development application, the applicant has the right to appeal the decision to the New South Wales Land and Environment Court, and as a result, council will be required to defend the decision. However, on the flip side, the council's failure to consider this application based on a soon-to-be redundant state environmental planning policy and its failure to consider complete information exposes the council to third-party appeal of any approval decision. As the residents have repeatedly pointed out, insufficient information has been submitted by the applicant regarding how the boarding house will operate, including such things, but not limited to how unwilling behaviour will be mitigated, all of which should be considered during the assessment of the development application through the consideration of a detailed site-specific plan of management, not as a condition of approval after. This is grounds for refusal, and if approved, will be grounds for third-party appeal of any objectors under the Environmental Planning and Assessment Act. You know this, you don't need me to educate you on this point. But let's put all this aside, except for a moment, that there are two independent arguments here. I bring your attention to events that my mother witnessed over the past couple of weeks and which were brought to your attention earlier this week via her direct email to you. We accept the representation for hearsay, and we also accept that as a boarding house it would be more difficult, but not impossible, for those types of activities to take place, particularly the managing agent responsible for oversight. But this is the way my 80-year-old mother, who's in her twilight years, needs to live, to be constantly living in fear of who the next out-of-town who will be popping into Dubbo for a couple of weeks, living in the boarding house and carrying on God knows what next door to her home for the past 60 years. As we strongly stated at the on-site meeting on the 10th of February, we are not against development. In fact, right at my father's passing last year, my parents considered developing their own block, which the council saw on the 10th of February. However, we, together with all the neighbours who will be most impacted with this development, want to see the types of homes built that will attract long-term residents to Dubbo. Families will establish themselves in Dubbo and contribute to the city's prosperity well into the future beyond all of our combined tenure on this planet. As innocuous as the development application may appear, the level of media scrutiny it's received tells us that this matter is important to the community. Not surprisingly, the number of people who stop my mother in the street to ask what's going on next door, why is the council even contemplating a boarding house in Macleay Street, has been overwhelming. Mr. Cusack from Platinum Property Group, who addressed you just earlier and who was quoted in the Daily Liberal just this morning, is clearly supporting this development, not surprisingly, given his financial interest in the development as the proposed managing agent. We object to the types of developments that will attract short-term players, the fly-in and fly-out, the types of business to our city that will conduct types of activities that my You have an opportunity in support of the constituents who voted you into the very seats you occupy. You have an opportunity to support the long-term residents who have contributed to building the city into the oasis that it is today and who have spoken directly to you. You have an opportunity to do the right thing and reject this application fearlessly without concern for the out-of-town applicants appealing this decision. You have the opportunity to make a bold statement that you want for long-term prosperity in this incredible city. When it comes time to vote for this matter later this evening, I urge you to do the right thing by the people who matter most, the residents of Darwin. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr Panaritis. Exactly on 5 minutes. Well done. Thank you. The next speaker now, thank you again, Ms Emma Webster. Thank you, sorry for the up and down there.
No trouble at all. I'd like to acknowledge first that we're on Tubbergar Wiradjuri country, and I pay my respects to elders past and present and extend that respect to people from all nations who are part of the meeting today. My name's Emma Webster and I'm speaking against the development at 47 Macleay Street. And I feel I could have been clearer in making the point that I'm actually speaking on behalf of the future residents of the boarding house itself. Yes, there's implications for neighbours, but the decision that you will make today about the housing stock will actually affect the life of every person who lives in the building for the life of the building. The building needs to provide people with a safe, affordable and pleasant place to live. It needs to be somewhere that you would be happy for your granddaughter or your dad to live, or a place that you knew you could recommend to a new and much needed employee who had moved to Dubbo for a job in your business. The DA before you today is none of those things. The proposed building houses too many people in too small a space. The rooms themselves include an ensuite and a kitchenette, yet you don't have room for a single bed, a table and an armchair. The communal indoor areas are not large enough to be communal. In the case of the first floor building of Building B, the communal area is only twice the width of the hallway. The communal outdoor space is also problematic. Located on the westerly side of the building, this small area includes a clothesline and is adjacent to the car park and driveway and is unlikely to be a pleasant communal outdoor area. I also don't believe that the proposed accommodation is affordable for people in Dubbo. I note on page 168 and 169 in Appendix 1 that the calculations used to meet the criteria of affordable housing in the CEP use median household income for Greater Sydney when the people who live in the proposed development will be individuals in Dubbo. The 2016 census reports the median household income in Greater Sydney is $1,750 and the median household income in Dubbo is $1,341 and the median personal income is $691. This means that the proposed rental price of $270 per room per week is 39% of the median personal income of people in Dubbo. It's important here to remember how you calculate the median. The income of every individual is listed in order from lowest to highest, and the middle score is the median. This means that precisely half of the people in Dubbo earn less than $691 a week, and the poorer half of Dubbo residents would therefore need to pay 39% or more of their weekly income on rent to live in the proposed boarding house. The income threshold for affordable housing set down by the CEP is 30%. I'm concerned that this means that the aims of the CEP are not addressed or compliant and that the proposed boarding house does not meet the definition of affordable housing in accordance with Clause 6 of the CEP. As we stood in the shade of the doomed jacaranda in Macleay Street, Councillor Ivey asked me a very good question of me, and it made me reflect that I had focused on describing the problems which arise from lack of privacy, autonomy and security, but I'd not paid proper attention to the solutions. And I propose Council adopt the following for all boarding house developments. Affordability of housing is assessed relative to income of people who live in the local government area. that consideration of new generation boarding houses, which consist of fully furnished micro apartments with ensuite, kitchenette, bed, dining lounge, washing machine, approximately 25 square metres, and have a maximum occupancy of 2 people per room. That secure tenure is required, that spacious communal areas indoors and outdoors, green outdoor areas to reduce hard surfaces and runoff with trees to provide shade, that development consent for boarding houses should include clear occupancy and sanitation requirements, ongoing registration of the boarding house with the relevant authority, and an avenue for residents to make complaints directly to council. Regular council audits of boarding houses to ensure they remain compliant with the development consent, and council to take prompt action with letting agents and owners when deficiencies are identified.
Sorry, Ms Webster, you've got about 15 seconds left.
Very good. For council to improve the development, it's also important that responsibility is taken for the development. And there have been significant failures with previous boarding house developments, resulting in numerous complaints to council and police, for which I've provided clear written evidence to Murray Wood. This is not fair for residents of the boarding house or the neighbours to have to shoulder those problems when it's council who's approved the development.
Thank you, Ms Webster. Okay, now the next item on the agenda doesn't relate to anything that Councillor Black has a conflict with, so you'll note that Councillor Black left the room for those public forum items that related to a conflict of interest he declared earlier. So, Mr Richard Mutton, I'd ask you to come to the microphone, please. Again, state your name and the item you want to discuss.
Richard Mutton, I'm here tonight as a ratepayer, not as a media person. I want to talk on 2 things tonight. Very briefly, I want to congratulate the councillors on their election and to Councillor Etheridge on her re-election. And the reason I say that is because I worked as a scrutineer on the night of the election in the bowling club. And I found what an inadequate building that bowling club is. Now, since then, I've heard a whisper that someone, somewhere, has decided that that might be a good place for the library. I live in abject horror of that. Somewhere in this building, in the past, there are quite a good master plan, being a former councillor, of how this whole area here can incorporate a library and other things, including more administration. And I really think, councillors, the idea I'm trying to put into your head is no to the bowling club. The only thing good about it is its location, but really what you want in this particular area is all the council things put together. You've bought Carpet Court, and that's a good opportunity now to perhaps buy the buildings as well along Talbragar Street. This is in the future, but I'm putting these ideas into your head, and I think in the future this whole area would become a wonderful local government precinct. That's number 1. Number 2 item is the swimming pool. We have the worst swimming pool in the whole of New South Wales for a city of this size. We have no heated water for 12 months of the year. The former council I was on, the second council I was on, we had a moratorium for 10 years with the RSL saying, OK, we'll let you go ahead with your heated pool when they convert it from 33 to 25 and we'll leave you alone. We won't do anything. Reluctantly, I agreed to that. Next time it came up, I reluctantly again agreed because we got the money to do Barden Park. Here we are, 22 years later, from the first time I was on council, 22 years later, with the same swimming pool, virtually, with a few little additions and a revamped slide. What we need to do is have 2 acts of 2 things that you need to do to get this swimming pool right. Number 1, enclose the existing 50-metre pool. Very easy. I've had a builder look at it, a prominent builder in this town look at it, and you can put a cover over that pool all the way, 25 to 30 metres wide, put solar on the top, and you can have walls like garage doors that go up and into the ceiling for the summertime. In the wintertime they come down. You may need a hocker sort of get from the entrance to there in the wintertime, because it might be a bit chilly when you come out of the change rooms. That's number 1. $2 to $3 million for that. I know you haven't got the money now, but let's think about it. Secondly, you then got the room, because the cottage is gone, to put a square 25-metre pool into that complex. Reason for square, go and have a look at Lismore, go and have a look at Wagga, go and have a look at Tamworth and see how effective and how efficient they are and how easy they are to run and how easy they are to keep clean using ultraviolet and not chlorinated water. These are ideas I want to instill into you, Council. I will be writing to you. Hopefully somewhere in the archives there's a very good plan for a 25-metre pool with former Director David Dwyer, and I had long discussions about that. And I really urge you to look at swimming in this town. We are not competing with Orange, Bathurst, Wagga, anywhere you like, Port Macquarie. Now, I had a swimmer in this town who went on to get a silver medal in the Olympic Games Sydney 2000, Dinah Callum, came from Burke. We coached her in this town, me and the late Alan White. What do we have to do? We sent her to a small place for a very good coach by the name of Stan Tilley, the late Stan Tilley, at Kingscliff. Kingscliff, a tenth of the population of Dubbo, and this is in 1995, 96, 97, about 98 to 2000. Tenth of the population, because they had 12 months water. And as I say, here we are, 22 months later, we've still got the same pool. Councillors, I urge you to think about it and look at it and get some plans together, get them shovel ready and go looking for a grant, and let's get this town back to where it should be as far as swimming is concerned. In 1974, a council, a very brave council, put in a 50-metre by 25-metre outdoor pool. Brilliant. It needs to be covered, it needs to be solar heated and backed up with the gas which you've got now. I urge you to think about that clearly and concisely and do something about it. Finally, I congratulate Councillor Shibley tonight.
Mr Button, you've got
Yes, I know, I'm over. Councillor Shibley tonight on the motion he's about to put regarding management of the pool. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr Button. I was leaving you to go. I thought you were going to be spot on 5 minutes, but then you just went a little bit longer. Right, thank you, Mr Mutton. Now, the next speaker I've got is Mr Andrew Lavelle. Thank you, Mr Lavelle. If you can come forward and speak as well.
Pardon me. Thank you, councillors, for your time tonight. My name is Andrew Lavelle. I'm on the committee of the Dubbo City Swimtech Swimming Club, and I speak on the same matter that Mr Mutton has just spoken on regarding the Dubbo Aquatic Centre. I'd also like to thank Mr Cusack for saving me a bit of time to recognise that Dubbo's potential and growth in terms of a growing population and the need for adequate facilities in this city. Dubbo has a lot of sporting clubs and a lot of community interest and public in outdoor areas. The benefits of aquatic sports are fairly obvious in my view. It provides a very low impact physical and mental benefit for people of all walks of life, anywhere from 12 months of age right through to the older years in life. And aquatic sports are a growing range of sports across our nation. The Victoria Park Precinct is growing in its ability to host fantastic events. Obviously a lot of the work done on the cricket ground and the facility itself, obviously with a lot of rain and greenery, is looking fantastic. I wouldn't probably go as far as Mr Mutton to say it is the worst pool, but it is definitely falling behind in terms of its ability to sustain and support our communities. I note DRC has previously looked at plans to upgrade the facility, whether that's to sort of do what Mr Mutton outlined around covering the 50-metre facility, building a new 25-metre indoor facility. There's multitude of designs, and I note that those designs are going to cost several $100,000 to generate. Dubbo has the potential to bring state and national events in its aquatic sports. I'm not just talking about swimming. I also play water polo, and I note that that's a growing sport in this community, but also the general benefit of having an all-year-round facility that is priced appropriately for the community to use. We are a satellite hub to Western New South Wales. We have a lot of people come in from the western areas. We have the zoo, we have a range of facilities. why not enable them to take advantage of an aquatic centre that they can use all year round? The clubs have noticed growth in swimming generally, particularly off the back of COVID. It's an outdoor sport. It's a really important thing to recognise that both DCS and Arana Aquatic Swimming Club have noticed growth. Comparable town centres like Wagga, Casino, Bathurst, Orange have indoor facilities. There's a Facebook flyover of the Tamworth facility, which I would encourage councillors to look at. Gives a good visual representation of what we could achieve. We have a need for facilities. Healthy living and the benefits through enabling those communities to benefit. And I also go as far as saying that we have the ability to match state and national events in swimming and also in water polo. We have had in a range of sporting clubs state and national representation. Our club has had a lot of representation at regional and country events of late, and we're actually keeping up with other centres that are able to train all year round through indoor facilities. Imagine what we could achieve if we had a facility that could enable our youth to challenge our city counterparts all year round. What I'm proposing to Council in support of a motion that will be put forward tonight is to look to get seed funding, to work with the state government in trying to attract the right level of funding, to progress those designs and get the right level of input from the community, from the stakeholders, to progress a design and work towards getting something shovel ready as an opportunity for this city. That seed funding will look to go towards putting a business plan together, working towards a business case to seek an investment decision. And what I also propose is to enable all stakeholders to have input through a working group that would help design and develop that facility for future use. I thank you for your time tonight. Look forward to continuing to work together. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr Lavelle. Now, I'm going to ask councillors here, we've got one more speaker registered and we're essentially at our 30-minute limit, and section 4.2 of our code of meeting practice says that we can't exceed 30 minutes unless a decision by council to extend by another 10 minutes. So if councillors wish to extend by another 10 minutes, I'd ask someone move that way, please. Councillor Chowdhury, thank you. Someone second that. Councillor Etheridge. Any discussion or debate amongst councillors about that? No, there being none, I put that. All those in favour, and this is to extend by 10 minutes the public forum. All those in favour? Against? Declare that carried. Thank you, councillors. So Mr Brett Towers is registered, so you've now got your full 5 minutes, Mr Towers, to come and put forward your point of view. I would remind you, I know you're responding to a previous public forum address. Obviously, we don't have any sort of parliamentary privilege, so I just ask you to make sure you don't have any demeaning remarks in relation to any other speakers that have been at public forum. Thank you. And Mr Councillor Black is also just leaving the room now because this is relating to a previous public forum address in relation to Macleay Street. So thank you, Mr Towers.
No worries. Thank you, Mayor, and thank you, councillors. So, good evening. My name's Brett Towers, and I'm speaking tonight on behalf of my parents, Graham and Lynelle Towers. So, on a correction to be made from a public meeting on the 27th of January this year concerning misleading and false information in direction of Towers Lodge. Mrs Webster, I believe, made this remark in regards to the development at 47 Macleay Street. Now, Mrs Webster used this for an example why this proposed development shouldn't go ahead at Macleay Street. Let me just give you a bit of a brief history about Towers Lodge. So, my parents built and run Towers Lodge for approximately 8 years. In that 8 years, let me correct, I don't even know my own notes. In the 8 years, the business ran a very successful and respectable sought-after accommodation for hundreds of short-term workers from all over the world, which these people contributed to our community. Towers Lodge consists of 10 bedrooms, which 7 were single-occupied and 3 were double-occupied. At no point did Towers Lodge have bunk beds in their premises. Visitors were welcome at Towers Lodge, but not permitted in the bedrooms. So each guest was granted up to 2 visitors. So the reason behind this was to not over-occupy the common areas. So this didn't allow people then to spill out into the streets or loiter in the gutter or at the point of that. So, sorry, I've lost where I'm at. Sorry, this premises was managed by Graham Linnell 24/7. How they did this, they lived in a one-bedroom unit at the rear of the property. So this allowed them to manage any of this activity from happening, so they could keep an eye on it 24/7. The lodge was perfectly kept and maintained at all times, and because of this, the Dubbo Regional Council's Information Centre recommended Towers Lodge as a safe, clean, short-term accommodation. So Graham Linnell currently own 72 Darling Street, which is located on the corner of Macleay and Darling Street, and fully support any future or further developments as per the zoning in the area. Where am I? So, quick things I'd probably add, it's not on the note. With the development going ahead, comments were made that it's probably short-term accommodations are not a good environment for the area. I disagree. The years that we had it, I was involved in running it myself while the parents went away. I used to stay there and run it myself. It was a good, clean, safe environment for people coming to Dubbo to contribute to our community in a way of working in abattoirs, or it might have been people working at the zoo, nurses, all walks of life and from all around the world. So moving forward, any future developments in that area, I couldn't see any reason why they should not go ahead, as it would contribute to our community and providing a safe, clean environment for all the future people to come to Dubbo and contribute to our community. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr Towers. I just ask if Councillor Black can be brought back in, and as per magic, the door opens. Thank you, Councillor Black. Now we do have, because we extended that time, we do have some more time left available in public forum, so I invite any members of the gallery. I think most of you have already spoken, but I think if there's any members of the gallery that would like to speak on any topic, then you're more than welcome to come forward to the microphone and speak. No, thank you. Now those two items, the two main items there, CCL 2231, which is the pool, CCL 22/45, which is Macleay Street, those two items will be dealt with in line in the agenda. So obviously people that are interested in that, they'll come up as they go through the agenda. Thank you for your attendance and thank you for contributing. I do enjoy when people come along with public forum. Next item on the agenda is CCL 22/25, confirmation of minutes. Can I have someone move that way, please? Thank you, Councillor Black, seconded by Councillor Goff. Any discussion or debate? Being any, I'll put that. All those in favour? Against? Declare that carried. Thank you. Next item on the agenda is CCL 22/26, report of the Infrastructure Planning and Environment Committee. Can I have Councillor Black move that, please? Thank you, Councillor Black. Have that seconded by Councillor Etheridge. Councillor Black, you wish to say anything about that committee meeting? Okay, thank you. Any discussion or debate, councillors? There being none, I put that. All those in favour? Against? Declare that carried. Next item on the agenda, CCL 22/27, a report of the Culture and Community Committee meeting. Councillor Goff, would you like to move that way, please? Thank you. Have that seconded by Councillor Chowdhury. You wish to speak to that committee meeting, Councillor Goff? Okay. Any discussion or debate, councillors? There being none, I put that. All those in favour? Against? Declare that carried. Report CCL 22/28, report of the Corporate Services Committee meeting held on 10th of February 2022. Save and accept that whole meeting apart from CSC 22/4, which will be dealt with separately. Councillor Mann, do you wish to move that way, please? Thank you. Have someone second that, please? Thank you, Councillor Ivey. Any discussion, Councillor Mann, do you wish to speak to that committee meeting?
No, thanks, Mr Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor Mann. Any discussion or debate, councillors? There being none, I put that. All those in favour? Against? Declare that carried. The next item is CSC 22/4 from the committee meeting. Councillor Mann, can you move that way again, please?
I will.
Thank you. Have someone second that? Councillor Chowdhury. Councillor Mann, do you wish to speak to that?
No, can't speak. We've got to get Councillor Black.
Yep, sorry. Councillor Black.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. I'd like to declare a significant interest in, a pecuniary non-significant, less than significant interest, in this matter as it relates to the purchase of Park Keswick on the 4th of November 2021 by Dubbo Christian School from Council, who I'm employed with. That's the Christian School. It was completed a month before the 4 December 2021 election, so I'll be staying in the room. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Black. In relation to CSC 22/4, do we have any discussion or debate, councillors? There being none, I put that. All those in favour? Against? Declare that carried. Thank you. CCL 22/29, report of the Audit and Risk Management Committee meeting held on 19th of October. Councillor Chowdhury, thank you. And seconder, please. Thank you, Councillor Wells. Do you wish to speak to that particular item, Councillor Chowdhury?
No, all good, thank you.
Thank you. Any discussion or debate, councillors? There being none, I put that. All those in favour? Against? Declare that carried. Next item is CCL 22/30, report of the Audit and Risk Management Committee meeting held on the 8th of February. Councillor Chowdhury. So moved. Thank you. Can I have that seconder, please? Councillor Goff. Councillor Chowdhury, do you wish to speak to that particular one?
No, all good, thank you.
Right, thank you, Councillor Chowdhury. Any discussion or debate, councillors? There being none, I put that. All those in favour? Against? Declare that carried. The next item is CCL 22/31, management of councils, aquatic leisure centres. Councillor Chowdhury.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
No, just move first of all. Thank you. So you just move that?
Yeah, I moved
Thank you.
that, yeah.
Have someone second that, please. Councillor Wright. Councillor Chowdhury, would you like to speak to the motion?
Yeah, I would like to move these following motions on the agenda for the 24th of February 2022 ordinary meeting of Council. That the Chief Executive Officer provide to the June 2022 Council meeting a report addressing ongoing management option of Council's aquatic leisure centres. That the report examine a range of factors, including not to limit to the advantages and disadvantages of in-house management and external contract management, financial analysis of each option, including projected one-off and ongoing finance implication, analysis of historical 5 years financial and attendance performance, analysis of any available benchmarking. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor Chowdhury. So that was the motion. Did you want to speak to that motion as to why you want to move that motion?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. A number of people speak to me about the pool. And Dubbo Region Council swimming pool is to be managed by an external contractor, and that seemed to be a successful model. That model was changed such that the Dubbo and Wellington pools were run by our staff internally. And it didn't seem to make sense financially. I did some approximate calculation, and it seemed to me that it was costing our community about an extra $600,000 per annum to run both pools internally and compared to externally. It will be helpful when Council Chief Executive Officer provide a financial report on June 22nd Council meeting, then Councillor and the community can compare the current model with previous model. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor Chowdhury. Do we have other comments or questions? Councillor Wright.
Thanks, Mr Mayor. Look, I just support Councillor Chowdhury's comments with respect to that. I too have had feedback from the community in various ways over the last couple of years since that change was made by the previous council. From what I can see as a community member back then myself, the process wasn't overly transparent and it was made internally without a lot of community consultation. So yeah, I too look forward to the comments and details regarding that report when it comes through. So.
Thank you, Councillor Wright. Any other discussions? Councillor Goff.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. I also support the notice of motion. I do understand that it was in Council's best interest for both pools to be run by Council so they can get an understanding of how much it would cost to run pools themselves internally after going from 1 to 3. So yes, it's a good idea to have a review now after we've had considerate time after amalgamation, and as long as the tender process is done accurately and with transparency.
Thank you, Councillor Goff. And just for clarification there, we're not necessarily going tender process at this stage. This is really just a review. So if it does get to that tender process, that'll be a separate process. Thank you, Councillor Black.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. Yes, very interesting motion. I'll support this motion. I'll be very interested to see the results of the report and what it says. I've got no great... it's not like I'm some sort of privatisation and contracting out freak or that everything should be in-house, but I'll be very interested to see the report when it comes. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Black. Councillor Ivey.
Mr Mayor, I also support the motion. I notice that it relates not just to the Dubbo Aquatic Centre but also the Wellington Aquatic Centre, which I would believe is fantastic compared to Mr Mutton's portrayal of the Dubbo Centre, but it's so good that it does worry me that it's not used more. It is an underused facility, and I think as part of this, looking at the management of it, if somehow the usage can be encouraged, I think that can be only for the better. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Ivey. Any other questions or debate, councillors? Councillor Showry, you have a right of reply if you wish to exercise that.
No, I'm good, thank you.
Thank you. Okay, councillors, we have the motion before us there. All those in favour? Against? Declare that carried. Thank you, councillors. The next item, CCL 22/32, the renaming Dubbo City Regional Airport. Councillor Ivey, you might even just read out the motion if you like, just so people that are watching remotely can actually see the motion or hear the motion.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. My motion is that the official name of the Council's airport be changed from the Dubbo City Regional Airport to Dubbo Regional Airport. The second point of the motion is that it be noted that it is estimated by staff to cost approximately $50,000 to change external and internal signage as well as uniforms and other branded assets. And the third part of my motion is that the cost of the name change be funded at the March quarterly budget review from the airport function.
Thank you, Councillor Ivey. I'll just get a seconder for the motion. Can I have someone second that? Thank you, Councillor Etheridge. Councillor Ivey, would you like to speak to your motion?
Thank you, Mr Mayor. I bring this motion because the current name is wrong. And I believe that where this council sees something that needs rectifying, it should act. The name Dubbo City Regional Airport is a nonsense. The airport can't be both a city airport and a regional airport. It is either one or the other. Perhaps some would say, oh, well, it's the Dubbo City's regional airport. And that too would be wrong. It's not the Dubbo City's regional airport, it is the Dubbo Regional Council's airport. And as such, this council has a responsibility for the whole of the Dubbo region, not part just the Dubbo City. It belongs to the Regional Council. So I believe it is appropriate that the name be changed. It's a simple change to the Dubbo Regional Airport. It will also bring it in line with the naming of other regional airports, particularly through New South Wales. Staff have provided an estimate of the cost of $50,000. Mr Mayor, I would hope that the actual cost of implementing the change would be substantially and much less than that. Changing the name involves two particular aspects. One, what we might call as soft changes, where changes to the registered name, to the website, to the some of the official requirements, but that can be changed, well, I would have thought, with very minimal or perhaps even no cost. The other more substantial part of the cost is hardware changes, the signage, the uniforms, the stationery. Look, if we were to immediately make all those changes in one foul swoop, I can see that the cost might be considerable. But I would like to propose that that staff and through the CEO, the staff be encouraged to make the change progressively. And if the change is made progressively, when normal replacement or maintenance of some of the hardware, the signs, would be normally due, then the cost would be much less than a once-off complete change. So, and I don't see any problem with making that change progressively. It doesn't have to happen immediately. It could happen over a number of months or even a year. With that overview, Mr Mayor, I'd say that the name is a nonsense to start with. Let's fix it and let's move on to the next thing. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Ivey. Any other discussion or debate, councillors? Councillor Wells, and then followed by Councillor Black.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. I'm in support of Councillor Ivey's motion. I think I agree that since the amalgamation, we are Dubbo Regional Council and covers quite a large footprint, and that makes sense. And he presents a compelling story around the change can be implemented over time, which will reduce the significant cost of the so-called $50,000. So just wanted to really support Councillor Ivey in his motion. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Wells. Councillor Black.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. The cost, let's say it's $25,000. I think the community can be comforted by the fact that council is willing to spend funds on matters such as this. So when we need to step in and spend the funds, they're going to be available even though we're under great COVID duress with our budget. So that might be advertising for a 24-hour police station in Wellington, might be a campaign for a bypass, it could be a campaign for a West Dubbo youth facility for the kids over there. But there are funds available and they can be spent when we need to spend them. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Black. Any other discussion? Councillor Wright.
Thanks, Mr Mayor. Look, I too would support that name and reiterate Councillor Ivy's comment with respect to bringing that in line with other regional centres. Look, I'd address the comments that some people have made that regional may indicate that it's a lesser product, but I certainly feel with Dubbo in the name, it highlights the fact that we offer a pretty quality product out here in our region. So, yeah, I'm happy to support that as well.
Thank you, Councillor Wright. Any other discussion or debate, councillors? No. Councillor Ivey, would you like a right of reply?
No, Mr Mayor.
Yep. Thank you. I've got the motion there from Councillor Ivey. All those in favour? Against? Declare that carried. Thank you, councillors. The next item is the CCL 22/33 Wellington CBD on-street parking management status. And Councillor Ivey, once again, could you just read out that motion, please?
Thank you, Mr Mayor. I'd like to move a motion that the Chief Executive Officer provide a staff report outlining the history and status of a previously unfinished staff investigation and consultation with businesses regarding the on-street parking environment in the Wellington CBD. Second point of my motion is that the staff report advises on the opportunities to progress the investigation following more recent and ongoing business concerns with long-term parking adjacent to business premises. And the third arm of my motion is that the staff report to be presented back to Council in time for the April 2022 ordinary meeting of Council.
Thank you, Councillor Ivey. Can I have someone second that, please? Thank you, Councillor Etheridge. Councillor Ivey, would you speak to your motion, please?
Thank you, Mr Mayor. Yes, look, this motion seeks nothing more than to address unfinished business. Previously, a review of the parking arrangements was commissioned to look at the parking in the Wellington CBD between Morn and Warren Street, along Percy Street and along Nanama Crescent. This review looked at various aspects of the CBD parking, including provision for caravan parking, time-limited parking in certain sections. But the review was never finalised, and in some ways, talking to a lot of the business people in that area, it was left a little bit up in the air and in limbo. And I think that those issues, particularly of some caravan parking and time-limited parking in the heavy traffic areas of that CBD stretch, should be looked at and looked at professionally by the council staff. So, hence my motion.
Thank you, Councillor Ivey. Any other points, discussion, debate, councillors? No? Obviously, Councillor Ivey, you don't need a right of reply, so I now put that motion. All those in favour? Against? Declare that carried. Thank you, councillors. Next item is CCL 22/34, Service Review Program for Council's Businesses and Operations. Councillor Marm, would you like to move that motion, please?
Thank you, Mr. I'd like to place the following notes and notes on the agenda for the 24th of February 2022 ordinary meeting of Council. 1. The Chief Executive Officer provide a report to the March 2022 Council meeting that provides a priority list of Council functions and business units that shall be the subject of the Service Review Program for a 24-month period. And 2, that the Service Review Program be provided to the Audit Committee for review and subsequent.
Thank you, Councillor Mann. Can I have someone second that motion, please? Thank you, Councillor Chowdhury. Councillor Mann, would you like to speak to your motion, please?
Yes, thank you, Mr Mayor. I think the important of this service review is, firstly, in some digging in, I can't find where an actual program review has been in place for recent years. Whilst the council ongoingly does review relevant services in the organisation, I think if we can have a program that prioritised, it will give the public very much a confidence that the council is looking at all the areas that need to be looked at and in a logical manner. I also believe, with nothing changes, and to simply sort of cut and paste 1 year to the next and do the same thing again, that is very much unhealthy for any business, and in particularly a lot of the current budget issues and challenges that we are facing at the moment. In recent years, most businesses have had to address all facets of their operations with the COVID effects and the various ups and downs of business closures, and had to pivot accordingly. And I'm sure whilst DRC has done that, I think it's something that's helping to the public record to have a detailed look into all these areas. We'll also meet our legislative obligations in a proactive manner. Mr. Mayor, obviously we can't review such a broad organisation all at the same time, but I believe that if we put this into a program and we follow a program, an orderly approach, and also continue to provide those services as we need to the community, I think it could be the benefit for us.
Thank you, Councillor Mann. Do you have any other speakers in relation to this? Any other points, councillors? Councillor Wright.
Thanks, Mr Mayor. Look, with any business, I think it's pertinent to continually review processes across all facets of the business, and certainly this council has made it quite clear that they're pretty interested in finding out ways to turn council around and maybe make those figures look a little bit more attractive at the end of financial year. So, look, certainly this goes also to addressing that and gives council a starting point, I guess, in which we can hopefully manage council through to a more positive position in a couple of years' time. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Wright. Any other comments, councillors? I will just make one point. There was an article I wrote as part of my normal columns that I write on a regular basis, which actually just posed a philosophical question to readers of the column about council involvement in businesses and whether we should continue to own those businesses. And that was just really a philosophical question, and some areas of council thought that might have been directed at them and might have been about selling those business units. But this motion from Councillor Mann, as I see it, is really about reviewing those operations overall. It's not about selling off businesses. It's not about doing anything in particular. It really is just about reviewing those operations. As Councillor Mann said, can we do them better? Is there a different way of looking at it? Can we treat things differently? So it really is an overall review. So I don't want council staff in any of the divisions of council suddenly be worried that they won't have that division tomorrow. We're going to close that down. It's going to be sold off. It really is just that review, as any good business does, continues to review what they do. So hopefully there's no staff out there worried that they won't have a job tomorrow. It really is just that ongoing long-term review. Any other? Sorry, Councillor Ivey.
Mr Mayor, just following on from your comments and Councillor Wright's, any review like that will hopefully identify some real strengths of businesses that may well apply to other businesses that don't possess those same strengths. So a review process is not a negative process, it's a very positive process. It can be aimed at looking at what the strengths are, for sure if there are some weaknesses, how are they addressed, but it is only aimed at improving things, not cutting them down. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Ivey. Any other speakers, any other councillors wish to put any points of view forward? No, Councillor Mann, if you wish to, you can exercise your right of reply.
Just another point, Mr Mayor, a couple of points there. Acknowledge the fact that the management has currently had several service reviews already underway, including communications and engagement, planning approvals, and these are obviously part of the program that we'll put together and prioritise as part of the complete overhaul.
Thank you, Councillor Mann. We have that motion before us now, councillors. All those in favour? Against? Declare that carried. Thank you. Sorry, just some technical difficulties. We're just sorting a couple of things out there for the live stream people. Next item on the agenda, CCL 22/37, Dubbo Regional Livestock Markets. 35, my apologies, not 37, 35. Dubbo Regional Livestock Markets. Councillor Goff, could you read that motion out, please?
Thank you, Mr Mayor. I'd like to place the following notice on motion on the agenda for the 24th February, that the Chief Executive Officer provide to the April 2022 Council meeting a confidential report regarding the business structure as it relates to licences, leases, agreements, arrangements of the Dubbo regional livestock markets. That the report include, but not limited to, summary of the business structure, financial program and economic contribution, the current structures of licences, leases and related operation agreements, independent legal advice regarding regulatory and legal compliance of the current business structure and related agreements and arrangements, and independent legal advice regarding potential opportunities to strengthen regulatory and legal compliance of regular agreements and arrangements and address any additional corporate risks to Council.
Thank you, Councillor Goff. Can I have someone second that, please? Thank you, Councillor Burns. Councillor Goff, would you like to speak to your motion?
Just briefly, I've asked for this notion to come forward as we're a new council and learning a lot of the businesses and interactions as a council that's involved. It's become clear that the Dubbo Regional Livestock Market is a very complex entity, and for greater understanding and transparency for the other councillors, I ask for the independent confidential report be done regarding the business structure, and at the end of the day, any business that council is involved in, we need to know or understand that the Dubbo community is getting the most and benefit out of that business involvement.
Thank you, Councillor Goff. Have other speakers to this particular motion? Councillor Ivey.
Mr Mayor, I'd support this motion. In my perhaps former life, or still in some ways existing life, as working as a consultant and an accountant in the agricultural industry, I have had a fairly close involvement through clients with the Dubbo Regional Sale Yards complex, but I don't understand it. I don't understand exactly the complexities of it. I don't understand exactly how it works, and I think this motion and the information coming out of this motion would just help me, and I'm sure the other councillors, be aware of the importance of the whole facility, but the complexity of it, and help us have that information whereby we can make a better and more informed decisions going forward. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Ivey. Any other discussion or debate, councillors? No, there being none. Councillor Goff, if you wish to exercise your right of reply. Okay, thank you, Councillor. We have the motion before us. I ask all those in favour. Against? Declare that carried. Thank you, councillors. Next item is CCL 22/36, 2022 Federal Election Funding Opportunities for Candidates. The motion printed in the business papers. Councillor Black, you've got a slightly different motion to that you wish to put forward.
Yes, thank you, Mr Mayor. I've got an alternative motion which changes the one in the business papers slightly, and it reads that the Chief Executive Officer prepare an interim report for the March ordinary meeting of Council for distribution to all candidates for the seats of Parkes and Calare in the 2022 federal election, detailing projects and other funding needs and opportunities across the local government area, i.e. a Dubbo Bypass Ring Road, Wheelers Lane, road rehabilitation works, Mile Street to the railway line section, Wellington Road, network in general, Wellington Showground upgrades, Badangra aerodrome upgrades.
Just, Councillor Black, can I just ask a question there? I know it's your motion, sorry, but I thought you were actually potentially going to just bring that to the March council meeting. I think you used the word interim in there, and I think that you were talking about at one stage bringing that forward to the March council meeting. So so I think you were going to do it, and again, I'm not trying to tell you what to do, but I think you were actually going to ask for a report to be brought forward to the March council meeting. No, but you just talked about an interim report, but I understand,
Will I take interim out?
I would suggest that would give you a better report.
Right, I'll just...
Again, I'm not trying to write the motion for you on the run, but...
So it reads now, the Chief Executive Officer prepare a report.
And continue on the next part of it?
For the March ordinary meeting of Council.
Thank you. Yes, thank you. So that would make more sense. Yep. Thank you, Councillor Black. Sorry about that, councillors. I just wanted to clarify that and make sure that was correct. Can I have a seconder for that motion, please? Councillor Etheridge. Councillor Black, would you like to speak to your motion?
I'd love to. Thank you very much, Mr Mayor. Yes, we've got a federal election coming up on the first or second week of May, Mark Colton said on the radio this morning. This is an amazing opportunity we have at the moment to lobby for funding. Council's in a bit of a dire financial situation due to COVID at the moment through no real fault of our own. We didn't bring COVID in, didn't ask for COVID, but we've got to deal with it. So any funding we can get now with two members in Calare and Parkes who are in the government is an amazing opportunity to lobby for funding. There's also other candidates who will be looking to make funding promises as well, so we need to be lobbying them. I've spoken to Senator Deb O'Neill, the Labor Senator, last night, and Jack Ayoub, and put some propositions to them. Things such as, we've talked about the pool previously. I spoke about that at the last council meeting in January, that Roma has a 50-metre covered indoor pool with retractable sides, so they can swim 12 months of the year in Roma, but we can't here in Dubbo. There's just so many things. A conservatorium, Andrew G funded $10 million to a conservatorium in Orange recently. Conservatorium of Music, we could do the same here. Second half of Wheelers Lane upgrade, with all the great work that Dubbo Council did with the COVID vaccination and testing clinics at the showground. That'd be a great way to thank the community, to pay for the second half of that. Maybe $1 million from the state, $1 million from the federal government. Wouldn't go astray. There's just so many things that we can get funding for. Andrew G is busting to deliver heaps of funding to Wellington, he said, basically on Binjang and in the Wellington lead-up last week. He said that he couldn't fund Wellington enough, that council didn't apply for the funds. So this is his big opportunity to flood Wellington with money in the next couple of months. We wouldn't want him to miss that opportunity. Thank you, Mr Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor Black. Do we have any other speakers on this particular motion? No, there being none, I put that. All those in favour? Against? Declare that carried. Thank you, councillors. The next item, CCL 22/37. Again, we've got a slightly different motion to the one printed in the business papers. Councillor Black.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. Another alternative motion. It reads that council notes community concerns about the state of the roads in the Dubbo Regional LGA. 2, that the Chief Executive Officer provide an interim or just report? Interim, this one. Just checking. Report that a 24 March 2022 ordinary council meeting outlining relevant information in regard to road maintenance and repair, including but not limited to current budget in comparison to other similar local government areas, current schedule of repairs, funding received from other levels of government, rating system for assessing Dubbo Regional Council roads and the process of designating priority repairs, maintenance and upgrades, challenges unique to Dubbo Regional Council in road maintenance, and third point, that the above report be considered a subsequent budget workshops and relevant council meetings.
Thank you, Councillor Black. Can I have someone second that, please? Thank you, Councillor Chowdhury. Councillor Black, would you like to speak to your motion?
Yes, thank you, Mr Mayor. Roads are a huge issue. If I can get elected on basically a roads platform, it shows what a massive issue roads are around the Dubbo area, and I'm also hearing in the Wellington area as well. If we can get a baseline on where the council is up to, everyone drives around pretty much, everyone has to move around. If we can get a baseline as a council on where we are, what the needs are, where we can allocate funding, where we can lobby for funding. The biggest sources of funds in Australia are the federal and state government, and any hints we can give them to help out, we basically can't afford to do everything. We need some help, and this motion should, I'll give a bit of a prompt to the state and federal government to help out the residents and ratepayers of the Dubbo Regional Council local government area. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Black. Anyone else like to speak to this motion? Councillor Wright.
Thanks, Mr Mayor. Look, I support the motion that Councillor Black has put forward on a couple of levels. Firstly, I'd love to address the fact that Councillor Black's phone has been ringing off the hook since the election due to the fact that he ran off his ticket off the back of roads. But secondly, I think the report itself would be a great one for the community to see as well, to understand as a council where our priorities might need to lay over the coming term, and certainly that'll create some discussion point amongst the community, which they can convey back through council for our future plans. So, thanks.
It's great to see such a caring attitude, Councillor Wright, for Councillor Black's phone. Thank you, Councillor Wright. Any other councillors? Councillor Goff.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. I also support Councillor Black's notice of motion. I too am sick of people coming into my shop complaining about roads. And if we can also make it transparent to the community of how we come up with what's a priority road and how we budget it and who gets tarred and who doesn't. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Goff. Councillor Wells, then Councillor Showery. Councillor Wells.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. I too support the motion going forward from Councillor Black. Wanted to comment on his campaign around the needs to improve the roads around Dubbo Regional Council, and also offer that lots of younger children in ages 10 and under have made, well, one in particular, a grandchild has made a comment to myself as a grandmother to say that Josh Black's going to fix the roads, and if it can get to a young person like that, then that tells me a really good story. So hopefully we achieve this. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Wells. Councillor Showery.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. I'm supporting this motion to Mr. Councillor Black because I had an incident during my election campaign. I had an accident with a accident in my car because of the poor road condition in Dubbo. So I fully support your motion, and I want to see that our report comes and you can see a good outcome. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Showery. Any other comments or debate, councillors? No. Councillor Black, you have a right of reply. Okay. Thank you, councillors. We have the motion before us. All those in favour? All those against? Declare that carried. Next item on the agenda is CCL 22/38 from a report from the CEO. Can I have someone move that recommendation, please? Councillor Showery. Have someone second it? Councillor Wells. Councillor Showery, do you wish to speak to the motion?
I'm good, thank you.
Thank you. Any discussion or debate, councillors? There being none, I put that. All those in favour? Against? Declare that carried. Thank you, councillors. The next item, CCL 22/39, the December 2021 quarterly budget review statements. Can I have someone move that report from the CEO? Sorry, someone move that way. Councillor Goff. Someone second that. Councillor Etheridge. Councillor Goff, do you wish to speak to that motion?
No, thank you.
Okay. Any discussion or debate, councillors? Councillor Wright.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. Look, just a point or maybe a question of clarity, if I can, to the CEO. Just note on page 51 of the business papers, there is a table on there, and I find it a little bit misleading, and maybe members of the public, if they've seen those papers, may well find that misleading as well. That just indicates that there's some, maybe on the surface, there's some cost savings with respect to a number of those particular items. I'm just wondering if we might be able to get a bit of clarity from that from the director there.
Thank you, Councillor Wright. I'll send it to the CEO.
Through to Mr Frost.
Thank you. Through Mr Frost.
Thank you, Mr Mayor, and thank you for the question, Councillor Wright. The projected adjustments there reflect more of a timing of our projects. As you can understand, some projects experience some challenges with their timing. It might be, delays with getting approvals or just delays in construction. So where there is a downward adjustment, it's not a saving, unfortunately. It's just a reflection that part of the work will be completed in the following year, and is held in reserve until that point in time. So hearing what you're saying, we'll adjust that table to make it clearer going forward for the rate for ratepayers and people looking at it. Similarly, you'll see there are some additions to the some of the project costings. They're an example of where the project has accelerated, and we're drawing from the reserves that we had sort of put aside for next year. That comes into this year's budget. So that's how they work.
Thank you, Mr Frost. Does that answer your question, Councillor Wright?
It does, Mr Mayor. Sorry, am I one more question as well?
You can ask lots of questions.
Fantastic.
You can only make one comment, but lots of questions.
Thank you. Look, I noticed on page 50 of that document as well, there was a cost, an increase of expense actually for the Creo Cafe, as well of around 21,000, some additional staffing costs. But just some clarity, I note that Creo now, there's been some changes with regards to management as a result of that.
Thank you, Councillor Wright. I'll go through to the CEO.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. Yes, Councillor Wright, the team led by Natasha Comer and our regional experiences has actually gone that out to contract. It's been about 2 weeks, so we did go out to market, took a lot of work, but that has been successfully entered into.
Thank you to the CEO. Councillor Wright, any further questions or comment? Okay, thank you. Councillor Ivey.
Just following on from Councillor Wright's query about the under-over and expenditure and shifting from one quarter to another, could I perhaps make the suggestion that as part of that table or as notes to the table, if any of those changes noted on a quarterly basis represent an overall change to the cost of the project, then they be just noted as part of that or underneath that table? Because that would say, okay, what's noted there is just a change in timing, but that's not particularly important, but a change in the actual overall cost would be worthwhile bringing attention to the council.
Thank you, Councillor Ivey. The CEO and Mr Frost have noted that information and we'll work on delivering something along those lines for you. Thank you, Councillor Ivey. Any other questions or comments, councillors? No. Councillor Goff, you have a right of reply if you wish to exercise it. Okay, thank you, councillors. All those in favour? Against? Declare that carried. The next item is CCL 22/40. Now the motion printed in the business papers is going to be amended slightly, or an alternative motion. Councillor Wright.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. The motion is that council delegates to the Infrastructure, Planning and Environment Committee the authority to approve tenders, and two, that no other delegation of authority be granted to council's standing committees. Thanks.
Thank you, Councillor Wright. Can I have someone second that, please? Thank you, Councillor Etheridge. Councillor Wright, do you wish to speak to that motion?
Yeah, I will. Thanks, Mr Mayor. This council has an appetite of cautiousness with regards to a number of the decision-making process. So I think we all understand we're probably treading a bit lightly and making those decisions as under council meeting conditions as a whole. But look, tenders themselves have got a pretty robust process in place already internally, and there's, without any sort of public consultation, I believe that those committees could be making those tender decisions on those committee meetings just to keep the wheels of business turning for those businesses who are submitting tenders. Thanks.
Thank you, Councillor Wright. Any other discussion or debate, councillors? There being none, I put that. All those in favour? Against? Declare that carried. Next item on the agenda, 22/41, the Draft Council Policy Code of Meeting Practice. Can I have someone move that way, please? Thank you, Councillor Black, seconded by Councillor Wells. Councillor Black, do you want to read that one out? Or I think that one's okay. That one's just printed the business papers of draft policy. So we'll take it as that moved. You wish to speak to that motion?
No, I wouldn't. Thank you, Mr Mayor.
Thank you. Any discussion or debate, councillors? And just for the benefit of the public, this isn't a final decision on the Code of Meeting Practice. This is really to put this out on public display. It'll be on public display for 42 days. It will come back to April meeting of council, which is where the final decision will be made on that. So I invite the public to have a look at the Code of Meeting Practice. If they think there's something that could be improved in that, then certainly take advantage of that. So no further questions or comments. Councillor Black, you're right. So all those in favour? Against? Declare that carried. Next item on the agenda, CCL 22/42, the superannuation payments for councillors. Councillor Black.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. We've got another alternative motion, slightly different to what's in the business papers, and it reads as follows. 1, that council makes superannuation payments to councillors at the amount stipulated by Commonwealth superannuation legislation for employees of the council, and 2, that superannuation contribution payments to councillors be incorporated into ongoing budgets as of 1 July 2022.
Thank you, Councillor Black. Can I have someone second that, please? Councillor Ivey. Councillor Black, would you like to speak to your motion?
Oh, yes, thank you very much, Mr Mayor. I've had discussions with people around the place and they can't believe that councillors aren't being paid superannuation. So it's a very interesting matter that I wasn't aware of before I actually got a job here at council as a councillor. So I don't see it being controversial in any way. Everyone knows that if you get more than $450 a month, you get paid super. The CEO, through you, Mr Chair, may be able to explain the change in the legislation to everyone of what's occurred recently. That's basically why we're here right now. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Black. I'll just go to the CEO.
Yes, Mr Mayor. The legislation's been changed to make this possible, and that's in recognition of the fact that councillors aren't well paid. They do sacrifice their private time. They do get a small wage, and it was considered an anomaly that they weren't given superannuation like every other sector in our community. So I think that represents recognition by government and the regulators that councils do take on a lot in their private time. There is some small remuneration, and so this goes to addressing that. And overall, the cost to the budget of council is around $31,000. So it's not a significant cost, but it is a fair contribution to councillors.
Thank you, CEO. Councillor Black, you wish to say more in your speaking to this motion?
Oh, no, I wouldn't, but I'd thank the CEO for his answer.
Thank you. Councillors, any other questions? Councillor Ivey.
Just a comment, Mr Mayor. As I understand it, superannuation is paid on all wages, salaries, and even a lot of contractors. The fact that it hasn't been paid on council laws remuneration, I think, is because it's classed as an allowance. The money we get paid is an allowance, and there's no superannuation on allowances. And so I think if we want to be classed as a wage or some formal remuneration like that, we would have been entitled to superannuation. So I think the legislation is really just correcting that anomaly as far as I can see.
Thank you, Councillor Ivey. I'm sure accountants will have some fun with delving through all this to work out whether it is an allowance or a wage. This might make it clearer if the superannuation paid. Any other comments or questions, councillors? Councillor Goff.
Just a quick note that it might just make it more appealing in the future for future elections for more people to step up to the mark and put their money where their mouth is and try and run for local government.
Thank you, Councillor Goff. Any other questions or comments, councillors? No. Councillor Black, do you wish to exercise your right of reply? No. I have that before us now, councillors. All those in favour? Against? Declare that carried. Thank you. The next item, CCL 22/43, review of the Audit and Risk Management Committee Charter. Councillor Chowdhury, do you wish to move that? Thank you. Have a seconder, please. Councillor Etheridge, do you wish to speak to that, Councillor Chowdhury?
No, thank you.
Okay, thank you, councillors. Any discussion or debate, councillors? Okay, I put that. All those in favour? Against? Declare that carried. The next item, CCL 22/44, review of the 2040 Community Strategic Plan. Again, this will be to go out on public exhibition. I have someone move that way, please. Thank you, Councillor Wells. Seconded by Councillor Wright. Councillor Wells, do you wish to speak to that particular motion?
Thank you, Mr Mayor. Just briefly, I think it's really important that the community get to see and are aware of the 2040 strategic plan for Dubbo Regional Council. So it's really good to see that it's going out. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Wells. Any other speakers on that, councillors? Councillor Black.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. This is a significant document for the community, and I'd encourage people to take the time to have a read through it and contribute to the process, because it's not just council sitting up here. The community feeds back into the council, and we're there to serve the community. So anything that we can do to we'll hear from the community and promote their views, that'd be great. So we can only do that by people having input into these sort of documents. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Black. Any other speakers?
Question?
Oh, sorry. Thank you, Councillor Mahon.
This is for you, Mr Mayor. Just wondering, what type of engagement numbers do we see on these type of CSPs?
Thank you, Councillor Mahon. To the CEO.
Through you, Mr Mayor, I'll pass it over to Stephen Jennings, who's the responsible manager.
Thank you, Mr Mayor, and thank you for your question, Councillor Mahon. Usually with community strategic plans, I was involved in the current community strategic plan, so I think actual written submissions was about the 80 mark in that vicinity. However, apart from that as well, it's not just the written submissions, it's where people, give us their views at different consultation events, our workshops. With our consultation this time, just for the community as well, we're focusing probably a lot more on the online situation, on the online package. However, with the change in COVID restrictions and the like as well, we have looked to pivot some of that consultation as well, looking to go out to the villages, the farmers markets, and also obviously as well have the councillors well and truly involved in seeing what our community's got to bring forward as well from that perspective.
Thank you, Mr Jennings. Councillor Mahon, does that answer your question?
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you. Any other discussion or debate, councillors? No. Councillor Wells, do you wish to have a right of reply or wish to exercise your right of reply?
No, thank you, Mr Mayor.
Okay. Thank you. Now, I've got that motion before us, councillors. All those in favour? Against? Declare that carried. The next item is CCL 22/45, Development Application D21-552, Boarding House at Lot 1, DP 596251, 47 Macleay Street. Now, I'll get Councillor Black to declare his interest.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. Yes, I will declare a pecuniary and significant interest in this matter, as I own a house at 17 Macleay Street, just the next block up from the subject of the DA, which is 47 Macleay Street, and will leave the room and be out of sight while the matter is decided. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Black. I'll let you leave the room. Thank you. Councillor Wells.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. I declare a conflict of interest, a non-pecuniary and less than significant conflict of interest. This is due to an objector of the CCL 2245 and my relationship with one of the objectors, Dr. Emma Webster, where we're very close friends. However, I am able to remain impartial and remain in the room.
Thank you, Councillor Wells. So we've got those declarations done. Can I have someone move the recommendation, please? Thank you, Councillor Wright. Seconded by Councillor Ivey. Councillor Wright, do you wish to speak to the recommendation to the motion?
Yes, I do. Thank you, Mr Mayor. Look, firstly, I would like to acknowledge all public contributions to this matter, both against and in favour of the development, and also acknowledge council staff for their assistance with and guidance with being so generous with their time and providing clarity with regards to the complex nature of this development. Look, the city is seriously lacking choices of accommodation at the moment, both in terms of cost and types of accommodation, and I believe this type of development helps fill a void which the city is lacking at the moment. The provision of adequate and sufficient number of all types of housing will relieve pressure, and I believe relieving that pressure will also relieve cost and in turn hopefully address that issue with regards to the affordability of housing. And certainly I'd support a quality and well-managed and compliant development, and I believe this meets that criteria. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Wright. Anyone else wish to speak on this particular item? Councillor Ivey.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. Yes, just following on from Councillor Wright's comment where he said that a well-managed and well-looked-after facility only helps the city. I can see that it does. I think the main objections were that if things go wrong with this development in the terms of looking after the quiet enjoyment of life for the residents, then that would be a problem. But yet I have been assured by council staff that there are mechanisms available to prevent any things going wrong with the subsequent residents, the residents causing any subsequent problems with that building. So I think I can't see that we can stop a development that I understand is legal, that it meets the criteria set by planning criteria, that there are functions in place to make sure that it is well run and not to the detriment of any of the local residents, and so therefore I would support the development.
Thank you, Councillor Ivey. Councillor Wells.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. I note and understand the points and thank Councillor Wright and Councillor Ivey for their comments about the supporting this particular development. I also want to note that the need for suitable and affordable housing going forward is about families and about not single people in a room. And I understand the need to have suitable housing for individuals coming to town or needing to have appropriate accommodation. And I would have hoped there was an opportunity to review the 18 individual units to similar to 9, townhouses or similar developments as such. I think that families and young families particularly are in need of accommodation, and this particular property would not provide that type of accommodation. Thank you, Mr Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor Wells. Other speakers? Councillor Etheridge.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. After our meeting this afternoon with the representatives of the Real Estate Institute and our real estate agents and builders, it is glaringly obvious that we're in a very bad state with our housing, social and private. We need to really start working to the future to remedy this. To hear Tina Reynolds tell us how many homeless people that she has sleeping out on the riverbank. She's got 100 people that can't get accommodation. They're now handing out swags and tents, and people are camping on the river. Something needs to be done, and this, I see, is the start of addressing a very serious problem. Thank you, Mr Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor Etheridge. Councillor Showery.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I would like to support this motion and this project because, as a migrant, I'm also a migrant in this town, and I receive at least 10 to 20 calls every day from different migrant people. They're moving into town, they not have any accommodation. Even though we have a new cardiologist came in the town, he called me 5 times for a house. So I said, go to the real estate. He just literally crying and I have a friend. He left in 2 months in a Airbnb. He couldn't find a house. So I think Dubbo has a real crisis of the housing sector, and we need to encourage people to move forward developing such housing. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor Showery. Any other comments or questions, councillors?
Mr. Mayor.
Yes, Councillor Mann.
Just on the process of this application, again, without repeating everything that's already been said, acknowledge the amount of input from both sides. We've taken our time, we deferred it at one stage, went on site, quizzed our professional staff based on all the questions that came through, all the varying points of difference. And at the end of the day, it serves to tick all the boxes, and the emotional side, very, very, there's always going to be somebody, I guess, that winners and losers in some of this sort of situation. But being a compliant development from everything we've been told as councillors, I think the motion will be supported.
Thank you, Councillor Mann. Councillors, any other comments or questions? No. Councillor Wright, would you like to exercise your right of reply? Okay, so we have the development application before us, councillors. I'll ask a vote. All those in favour of that development application? All those against? Declare that carried. And I'm sure council staff will note the negative vote from Councillor Wells. Thank you. So for the people in the gallery, so that was the item that several speakers came and spoke about. So that was the boarding house application. So obviously, as you saw there, that's now been approved by council. So again, thank you for coming along and stay for the rest of the meeting. You're more than welcome to, but I know many people were waiting for that particular item. The next item on the agenda is, sorry, thank you, Councillor Black. Thanks. Kelsey. Next item on the agenda is CCL 22/46, Dubbo City Regional Airport Airline Regular Passenger Transport Fees and Charges 22/23. Could I have someone move that way, please? Thank you, Councillor Etheridge. Seconded by Councillor Goff. Oh, sorry. Sorry, my apologies. I take that back one step. Councillor Ivey, you've got the motion for 22/46. So I ask you to move that particular motion.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. I would move that the draft 2022-23 revenue policy reflect an increase of 2.5% for passenger fees and charges at the Dubbo Regional Airport to $17.45. Note the new name. That the draft 2022-23 operational budget, the Dubbo Regional Airport, reflect an annual 2.5% increase for the following 3 years. 3, that the Chief Executive Officer formally advise all airlines of proposed passenger fees and charges. And 4, that all other fees relating to Dubbo Regional Airport and Wellington Aerodrome and Recreation Park, including security fees and general aviation landing fees, be considered as part of the broader annual revenue policy review process.
Thank you, Councillor Ivey. For those people listening at home, that was in relation to the fact that when the business papers were put together, the name of the airport was Dubbo City Regional Airport. Due to the previous notice of motion, it's now Dubbo Regional Airport. So thank you. So can I have a seconder for that now, please? Thank you, Councillor Wells. Councillor Ivey, would you like to speak to the motion, to the charges of the airport?
No, Mr Mayor.
Thank you. Any discussion or debate, councillors? There being none, I put that. All those in favour? Against? Declare that carried. Next item on the agenda, CCL 22/47, the NRL South Sydney Agreement. Now, once again, we've got an alternative. Yep. Just remind me who's got that. Councillor Chowdhury, have you got the motion for that particular one, 22/47? And again, just for people watching, there was a motion in the papers, but that gave the option for the council to determine if the Mayor and CEO be authorised to commence negotiations. You've got a slight variation on that, Councillor Chowdhury.
Yeah, I would like to bring that amendment, that the Chief Executive Officer provide a report on the social and economic outcomes of the 2022 NRL event to the future meeting of Council, that the Mayor and CEO be authorised to commence negotiation with South Sydney Rugby League Football Club for future years of NRL games. Number 3, that a report be brought to the June 2022 Council on the results of negotiation with SSRLFC for consideration. Number 4, that the Mayor write to the Honourable Dougal Sanders MP thanking the NSW government for their support and to seek financial support for future NRL event. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Chowdhury. Can I have someone second that, please? Thank you, Councillor Wells. Councillor Chowdhury, do you wish to speak to your motion?
No, good, thank you.
Okay, thank you. Do we have any questions or discussion or debate? Councillor Wright.
Just a comment, thanks, Mr Mayor. Look, I think I applaud the council for including this item actually in the business papers themselves. Obviously, we hear a lot of pie in the sky numbers around the community when we talk about purchasing an NRL game for the community and what benefits it brings. So certainly, there's a quite an amount of information in here which I think the community will find quite useful, and I'll get a pretty good understanding as to how this type of event affects council from an economic perspective, and maybe what sort of benefits we might get going forward if we were to engage in communication with another club sometime in the future. Thanks.
Yeah, good. Thank you, Councillor Wright. Any other questions or comments, councillors? Councillor Black.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. Yes, the NRL game was a great success last year for those who went, and they did lots of good stuff, Souths, around the community. Get a bit more out of them, that'd be great. The New South Wales government chipping in really made it for the community, so if that could happen again, that'd be really much appreciated very much appreciated, even better, by the whole Dubbo and Wellington communities. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Black. Councillor Burns.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. I just wanted to mention that last year when this was done, cultural protocols weren't properly followed, and there was a lot of bad feelings through traditional owners throughout the community, and I want to just make sure that the cultural protocols are followed whenever they're on country, and maybe they might need some advice on how to go forward to other towns so they don't make the same mistake again. That's all. Thank you.
Yeah, thanks, Councillor Burns. And we have had one meeting with South Sydney that I've been involved with, and that was certainly one of the items on the agenda to make sure they're aware of that from last year and to make sure that they go through and correct it this year. So your point's noted and certainly hopefully be fixed up this year. Thank you for that comment. Any other questions, councillors? What I might do is I've got a slight question in relation to, Councillor Mann. Okay, we might just pause the meeting there for a moment. Yeah, I know, we've got him back again. Okay, excellent. Thank you. Good to see you back, Councillor Mann. So I've just got a brief question. I wouldn't mind if, through you, Mr CEO, if Ms Coomer could give us a brief overview of some of the process in relation to this, because as a couple of councillors have noted, this has been something that's been talked about in the community a lot, and the community is excited when we get an NRL game, but they may not be aware of some of the things that happen behind the scenes to actually make it happen. So would you like to speak a little bit about this process and where it's at with this one this year and going forward?
Thank you, Mr Mayor. Well, certainly we're well underway for the plans for the 2022 game. We've met with South Sydney in regards to some of those opportunities. We've started constructing sponsorship and partnership opportunities, which obviously remove some of the costs borne from council and community. We've structured the ticketing, so council this year will be, given it's a non-COVID event, we will actually be running the tickets. So whilst we wear the risk with running the tickets, we're very confident that the ticket sales and the support that the community has shown the events in the past, that we will be able to run this event at a nil cost to the community, which is positive news, but also coming with that is really important that the community supports these events, but also that we get the sponsorship targets that we want, and obviously we value the money that comes from the state government as well. But certainly South Sydney have indicated that they're really keen to even go bigger and better than what we did last year, and we look forward to working on that partnership with them and coming back with the results to council.
Good, thanks. Look forward to it, and yes, it'd be the same. I'd encourage our residents to support it. We'll keep getting these type of events if the residents of our community and the region support these events. Any other questions or comments, councillors? No. Councillor Schauder, would you like to exercise your right of reply?
No, thank you.
Okay, thank you, councillors. We have that motion before us. All those in favour? Against? Declare that carried. Thank you. CCL 22/48, the beautification of neighbourhood shopping precincts. Can I have someone move that way, please? Councillor Etheridge. Have someone second that? Councillor Chowdhury. Councillor Etheridge, do you wish to speak to that particular motion?
Yes, thank you, Mr Mayor. I'd just like to thank the staff for the report. It's very thorough and very informative, and it shows that these people have not been forgotten again. They're still there on the table, and I'll be very happy to pass all of this on, and this document gives me something to work with so that I'm a bit more informed on what's happening with it. And it's good to see more work going on in Boundary Road with the paving of the footpath. So thank you very much.
Thank you, Councillor Etheridge. Anyone else like to speak? Councillor Wright.
Certainly, thanks, Mr Mayor. Look, I know Councillor Etheridge has been rocking this baby for a couple of years now, so well done for pushing it along. Because certainly I drove up Boundary Road yesterday morning, and they were very active in replacing the gutter through there. And I just wanted to make a note that obviously we're looking to move over to Victoria Street here now, and just make a note that the owners of that complex over there have already invested significantly into improving their strip along there. So certainly for council to co-contribute for the beautification of the footpath area would complement the investment that they've made on a pretty busy strip, and some would argue the gateway into the city coming from the airport. So yeah, looking forward to seeing the Victoria Street development pushing ahead at some stage as well. Thanks.
Thank you, Councillor Wright. Any other comments, questions, councillors? No. Councillor Etheridge, would you like to exercise your right of reply? Thank you, councillors. We have the motion before us. All those in favour? Against? Declare that carried. Next item on the agenda is the draft CCL 2249, the draft Eumundry Flood Risk Management Report for public exhibition. Councillor Burns. Moved by Councillor Burns. Someone second that, please. Councillor Black. Councillor Burns, do you wish to speak to that motion? Okay, thank you. Any other comments or questions, councillors? No, there being none, I put that. All those in favour? Against? I declare that carried. Next item is CCL 22/50, the 2022 Dubbo Cycle Club season. Councillor Etheridge, would you like to move that motion?
Sorry, Mr Mayor. Yes, I'd like to move the motion as noted because it's quite a lengthy, lengthy motion.
No, that's no
Thank
problem.
you.
As noted in the business papers, have someone second that, please. Thank you, Councillor Etheridge. Councillor Black. Do you wish to speak to that motion, Councillor Etheridge?
No, thank you, Mr Mayor.
Any discussion or debate, councillors? Yes, Councillor Ivey.
Just, it occurs to me that, and I have ridden some of those race routes in former years, and it's an important recreation thing. It's great for the area. I know we used to get quite a lot of visitors used to ride too, and I just think that that it's great that the council recognises and gives permission, but also perhaps just has some responsibility just to maintain the road surface. I think so. I know there's a program of pothole filling and maintenance, but just bearing in mind that these routes are used reasonably often, and it would be good if they're just given some sort of priority for maintenance.
Thank you, Councillor Ivey. Any other Councillor Wright?
I believe Councillor Ivey may well have nominated himself as the lycra wearing councillor for that particular event. Thank you.
Other councillors, any other questions or comments? No. Councillor Etheridge, do you wish to exercise your right of reply?
No, thank you, Mr Mayor.
Thank you. Councillors, all those in favour? Against? Declare that carried. Next item on the agenda is CCL 22/51, Playground Strategy for Dubbo Regional Council. Councillor Wells, we should move that way. Thank you. Can I have someone second that, please? Councillor Chowdhury. Councillor Wells, do you wish to speak to that motion?
Thank you, Mr Mayor. Just briefly, wanted to thank the length and the comprehension of the report received, and I hope to be able to go out and look at all of the sites that were listed in the report. And it's pleasing to see that there's a long list of areas that are on the horizon to have some better playgrounds. I know that there is a Brocklehurst that's missing off the report, but I understand that there is some planning in motion for it to be considered in future. So just wanted to say thank you, and that I plan to get around to all of those particular sites. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Wells. Just before I go to any other questions or comments from councillors, I might just go to the CEO, to Mr.
Manager of Recreation Open Space, Mr. Ian McAllister.
Sorry, Mr. McAllister, just in relation to the Brocklehurst one in particular.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. Council was fortunate to receive some funding through the Stronger Country Community Fund 3. That project was delayed for a period of time, but we're now in the process of finalising quotations with the view of proceeding with that playground in the very near future and having it installed by about September this year.
Thank you, Mr. McAllister. Now, any other questions? Councillor Black.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. Very good report. It's interesting to see the map of where all the playgrounds are around Dubbo. That was a real eye-opener. It just shows the value of well-planned public open space and green space in a city, and if we're going to intensify the dwellings around town and more people jam into a smaller area with boarding houses, medium density, those sort of things, we really need to have really well-planned public green space and maintain that. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Black. Any other comments or questions, councillors? No. Councillor Wells, do you wish to respond to anything?
No, thank you, Mr Mayor.
Thank you. I have that before us now, councillors. All those in favour? Against? Declare that carried. Councillors, CCL 22/52, the Regan Park Master Plan status. Councillor Wright, do you wish to make a declaration?
Yes, thanks, Mr Mayor. Just wanted to note a non-pecuniary, non-significant interest in matter CCL 22/52. I am a resident of Regan Park Estate. My property does not overlook the planned development location, nor does it border that area. So subsequently, I'll remain in the room for this discussion. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Wright. Now, have a move of that, Councillor Black. Happy to move that. And just have a seconder for that, please. Thank you, Councillor Wells. Councillor Black, do you wish to speak to that?
Oh, yes, thank you, Mr Mayor. Since we moved this motion up last council meeting, the January meeting, I've had so much feedback from people about the Regan Park. It's just really been incredible, that and roads, probably more so Regan Park than roads of late. The community really does take a great interest in Regan Park and the whole area. I talk to people who are up at the netball courts and talk about the area up around there and how you can go under the bridge back into town, etc., etc. So anything we can do with really good planning along the river corridor, which is a great asset for Dubbo, it'll be something for future generations as well as ourselves. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Black. Any other questions or comments, councillors? No, there being none, I put that. All those in favour? Against? Declare that carried. Thank you, councillors. We come to CCL 22/53, comments and matters of urgency. I started on the right last month, so I'll start on the left this month. Councillor Black.
Oh yes, thank you, Mr Mayor. Not a great deal going on this month other than being contacted by constituents, which is great. I would like to report on my discussions last night with Labor Senator Deb O'Neill and Jack Ayoub. I really did drill them down on our funding needs in Dubbo. So I got a really good hearing there, so hopefully we should have some good funding announcements or election promises or pork barrelling, whatever you might like to call it, coming up in the next couple of months. So I'm looking forward to that. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Black. Good to see there's no more incidents in the pool that you've got to report on this month. Councillor Wells. So just any comments or any items you want to make mention of?
Sorry, Mr Mayor. No, I don't. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Ivey.
Yes, Mr Mayor, can I just raise two issues? One's very short. I just noticed behind you the photo of the Queen and Prince Philip. Is that, I don't know what the protocol is, but with Prince Philip now departed, is that appropriate? I don't know. So I just raised that.
Thank you. I'll take that as either a comment or a matter of urgency. I'm not sure which.
It doesn't really worry you. I just wondered. The other more serious issue again follows on from what Councillor Black raised earlier about the issues that Andrew G raised in relation to Wellington's funding grant applications. The Mayor and the CEO and I did have some robust interchange, I think, on the issue. But I do feel very strongly that, particularly in our community, in the Wellington community, as part of the Dubbo Regional Council, there is, rightly or wrongly, a feeling going that perhaps it didn't get a fair share of some of the funding applications. That seems to have been reinforced by Andrew G's comments, but we'll let that go. But it does seem to me that, again, as Councillor Black said, there is an ideal opportunity out there now to apply for funding to try to redress what Andrew G has alluded to. And I'm thinking in particular I know that with the Badanga Airport, I know it's an issue, I know there's a management plan to be developed and we're to look at what's going to happen, but it does seem that no matter what happens to the airport, some form of improvement or upgrading to it can only be to the council and the area's advantage. So I would just stress that if there's funding opportunities out there or applications that can be made to improve the quality of the standard of the infrastructure around that Badanga Airport and Recreation Park, that the council be really encouraged to push it. I know part of the problems is with some of the funding, it's tied, so yes, we can apply for $600,000, but $300,000 comes from the government and $300,000 has to be found itself. But I also understand that it's possible to apply for non-tied funding. So if there's a couple of $100,000 out there which might be available, then I can see no reason, irrespective of the Badangra Airstrip Development Plan, or whatever we want to call it, that funding application shouldn't be pushed very, very hard as soon as we can. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Ivey. Councillor Wright.
Thanks, Mr Mayor. Just a couple of points, actually. Look, the first one is just off the back of a cancellation in the last 24 hours of a rather significant junior sporting event in a location on the North Coast due to all that rain through there. I believe they've had challenges for a number of years with that, and I must say Dubbo hosts some sensational sporting facilities down here, and that really does highlight the need for us to continue to push for those types of championships competitions when they arise. So I know our hat was in the ring this time, last time, and I'm hoping it's back in the ring this time, and the current state of the playing fields up on the North Coast might put us in good stead, hopefully, for next year. Look, the second one was just with regards to a meeting I attended this afternoon with a number of fellow councillors, as well as a number of council staff, the Real Estate Institute and the Builders Group. Look, it was a rather productive meeting, the first of hopefully a number of them, addressing the challenges we're finding with housing in the region at the moment. So there were a number of really good ideas bounced around the room, and hoping it's something that as councillors and as council staff can take forward and hopefully implement some of those ideas moving forward. Thank you.
Thanks, Councillor Wright. Councillor Shattery.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I would like to acknowledge and thank you, Tungai community, through tonight's meeting. During the election campaign, I met with the locals at Tungai community as they were the part of South Ward. They were pleased to see me as a candidate. They told us of their needs and showed me around the Tungai Hall and the grounds. Last 12 February, I returned to see them again at the invitation. Now, as a councillor, I was able to share their thoughts and ideas for 2022. There were an active local community group, and they were very appreciative of grants they have received from council and the state government. As a result of these grants, they have had one of their tennis court be resurfaced and new lighting is installed. The night was organized to turn on the light officially and to have, which is exactly what happened. I mention this because I'm hoping that we as councillor will not ignore these small communities in future. We must, as a team, think beyond Dubbo and Wellington. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Shattery. Councillor Etheridge.
No, thank you, Mr Mayor.
Thank you. Councillor Burns. Oh, you had your chance this month, Councillor Burns. Last month we went this way. You had the chance to go last almost this month. Councillor Goff. Okay, thank you. Just a couple of... sorry, Councillor Mann.
No, thanks, Mr Mayor.
Thank you. Just a couple of quick things. I'd just like to congratulate councillors on the decision-making process with Macleay Street. A DA, your first DA as a new council is a tough thing to look at and a tough process to go through. But I think councillors, with the help of staff and with the honest and upfront conversations with the objectives, I think that was a very good process. Obviously there'll be people who will win and lose out of that in terms of the decision, but I think the process that everyone went through was a very good process, and I think councillors all put a lot of thought and had a lot of questions and a lot of just learning about the process and getting to the point where you could make a decision. So congratulations to the councillors on that, and also thanks to the staff for their help in all of that process. And I think the objectives all presented themselves in a very professional manner as well. So that was good from a community perspective overall. Again, there'll be some people unhappy, but I think people understand the way we went about that decision-making process. Just on the back of that, I suppose I'd make mention of the item that Councillor Wright mentioned as well. That meeting this afternoon was very productive. I thank the Real Estate Institute and the builders for coming along. Our staff were there as well. We had councillors there. And I just think trying to solve the problem of housing going forward is not an easy fix. The way we will solve it is by having people in a room that have got knowledge of the process and to try and get to the end where we can actually start to have some short-term and some long-term solutions for that. It's a great problem to have. People want to move to this wonderful city and this wonderful region. Isn't that fantastic? We need to make sure we've got somewhere for them to live. And the last one is the men's shed. I thank the men's shed for having us along. We had a few of the councillors come along to the men's shed, and it's great to see those sort of community groups, what they do for the community and what they do for mental health, probably more than anything else, of those people in the community is fantastic. So it was good to go along and see some of those people there, and it's been a few years since I've been to that particular men's shed, but it was good to see some of those familiar faces there. So a few little items there, but it's great to see the community is engaged. Councillors are engaging with the community. I think the community is very positive still about this group of councillors, about us going forward. Now we move on to confidential reports. And we've got one item there. I need to move into a confidential component, so I can have a councillor move that way, please. Thank you, Councillor Etheridge. Can I have a second, please? Councillor Wells. Now, I've got one component I've just got to read out from our Code of Meeting Practice. We've had no applications from members of the public to make their representations regarding whether this meeting should be closed to the public. I'll then normally ask if anyone from the gallery wants to ask about that or make any representations, but I don't need to do that because there's no one left in the gallery. So before we move into confidential, I've now got a motion from Councillor Etheridge. Councillor Etheridge, do you need to speak to that motion? No. Any discussion or debate, councillors? And this is just about moving into confidence or into a confidential component of this meeting. Any discussion or debate on that, councillors? No, there being none, I put that. All those in favour? Against? I declare that carried. No one in the gallery, no media there, so no one needs to be asked to leave, but the streaming will be turned off, and just before we turn that off, when we've finished the discussion on this, the streaming will be turned back on, and then the resolution from this confidential component will be brought forward to people publicly, but the discussion will be in confidence. So thank you, Holly, if you turn that off. Okay, streaming is now resumed, councillors. We're back into open council. I'd just like to ask the Executive Manager, Governance and Internal Control, to read the resolution of council regarding item CCL 22/54.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. Support for technology trial at council facility, that council waive fees and charges related to the hire and use of the Wellington Aerodrome and Recreation Park for the purpose of a technology trial as outlined in the report for a period of 8 weeks.
Thank you, Ms Rouse. That brings us to the end of the meeting, councillors. Thank you for your attendance. Thank you to the people watching from home, and we'll see you again next month. Meeting closed at 7.